It was a stormy night in the dense outskirts of a forest, where civilization ended and the wilderness began. The rain poured relentlessly, turning the dusty paths into muddy trails. Amidst the thunderous roars of the storm, a stray dog named Rocky sought shelter under an abandoned wooden shed. Rocky had been a loner for years. With scars on his body and a limp in his step, he was a survivor. Banished from his pack as a pup, he wandered the edges of human villages, living off scraps and avoiding danger. He was resilient, yet his life had always felt hollow. As the storm raged on, Rocky's ears perked up to a faint, helpless cry coming from the forest. It wasn't the typical sound of an animal. It was feeble and desperate. Instinctively, he shook off the rain and followed the sound. His paws sank into the mud as he pushed through the thickets. To his astonishment, he stumbled upon a tiny tiger cub, barely clinging to life. The cub was frail, shivering, and drenched. Its small frame was marred with scratches, and its breathing was shallow. Rocky hesitated. The natural order dictated that he should walk away. This was not his kind, not his responsibility. Yet, something stirred within him. Rocky nudged the cub gently with his nose. The little creature opened its eyes briefly, locking gazes with Rocky. In that moment, the dog saw something familiar, a will to survive against all odds. Without further thought, Rocky picked up the cub by its scruff and carried it back to the safety of the shed. Under the makeshift roof, Rocky licked the cub clean and curled his body around it, shielding it from the cold. The storm raged on, but within the shed, a fragile bond was forming between two unlikely companions. The dawn broke gently, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Rocky woke to the faint movement of the cub against his chest. The tiny tiger whimpered softly, its hunger evident. Rocky didn't know how to care for such a creature, but his instincts kicked in. Leaving the cub tucked safely in the shed, Rocky ventured out in search of food. He scoured the outskirts of the village, finding scraps near the market and even managing to catch a rabbit from the nearby fields. When he returned, the cub let out a weak but audible mew, its eyes opening wider than the night before. Rocky chewed the rabbit meat and gently nudged it toward the cub. It sniffed hesitantly before taking its first bite. The sight filled Rocky with a strange sense of pride. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was saving a life. Days turned into weeks, and the cub, which Rocky named Tigo, began to regain its strength. Tigo would playfully pounce at Rocky's tail, stumble over his oversized paws, and let out tiny roars that were more amusing than intimidating. But the forest wasn't safe. The other animals had begun to take notice of the unusual duo. A lone dog and a tiger cub were easy prey for predators. One evening, a pack of wild dogs circled their shed, growling menacingly. Rocky stood his ground, his body a shield for Tigo. With a deep, guttural bark, he challenged the pack. The standoff was tense, but Rocky's determination and scars told a story of battles fought and won. The pack retreated, but Rocky knew their peaceful days were numbered. Rocky realized that staying near the forest edge was too dangerous. He needed to find a safer place for Tigo to grow. He had heard distant howls and the chirps of birds from the hills far beyond the forest, a place untouched by human interference. One early morning, with Tigo perched awkwardly on his back, Rocky began the arduous journey. The path was treacherous, filled with rocky terrain and steep climbs. Tigo's playful energy soon turned to exhaustion. Rocky would stop frequently, encouraging the cub with gentle nudges. As they ascended, the air grew colder, but the view became breathtaking. The hills were lush, with streams of crystal-clear water and patches of wildflowers. It was a paradise, but it came with its own set of challenges. The hills were home to larger predators, bears and leopards that wouldn't hesitate to attack. One afternoon, as they rested by a stream, a shadow loomed over them. A large black bear emerged from the trees, its eyes fixed on Tigo. Rocky's heart raced, but he stood firm, placing himself between the cub and the bear. He growled fiercely, his fur bristling. The bear advanced, and for a moment, it seemed like all hope was lost. But then, Tigo did something remarkable. With a tiny roar that echoed with determination, the cub stepped forward, mimicking Rocky's stance. The bear paused, seemingly amused by the audacity of the little tiger. After a tense moment, it turned and lumbered away, leaving the duo unharmed. Rocky realized that Tigo was no longer the helpless cub he had found. Together, they were stronger than he had imagined. In the safety of the hills, Rocky and Tigo settled into a routine. Tigo grew rapidly, his once frail frame now muscular and agile. He learned to hunt, often practicing his pounces on unsuspecting rodents and birds. Rocky watched proudly, guiding him when needed and stepping in when danger loomed. Tigo, in turn, became fiercely protective of Rocky. When a pack of wolves attempted to ambush them, it was Tigo who roared loudly, scattering the attackers. The roles had begun to shift. Their bond was more than just survival. It was a deep friendship born out of trust and love. On quiet evenings, they would sit by the edge of a cliff, watching the sunset. Tigo would nuzzle Rocky, and Rocky would respond with a gentle lick. They were a family against all odds. But as Tigo grew, so did the challenges. His instincts as a predator became more pronounced. There were moments when he would chase after prey with a ferocity that startled even Rocky. The stray dog began to wonder how long they could remain this way. One fateful day, while exploring the hills, they stumbled upon a group of humans camping near a stream. Tigo, curious but cautious, watched from the shadows. Rocky, however, felt an unease he hadn't felt in years. The humans noticed them, and their reaction was mixed. While some admired the beauty of the tiger cub, others saw it as a threat. One man, armed with a tranquilizer gun, aimed at Tigo. Rocky barked loudly, startling the humans and giving Tigo a chance to retreat. But the humans were persistent. Rocky realized that their peaceful life in the hills was under threat. As night fell, the humans set traps around their camp, hoping to capture Tigo. Rocky, using his keen senses, led the cub away from danger. They moved through the darkness, their hearts pounding with fear. By morning, they had reached a secluded part of the hills, far from the humans. Rocky knew they couldn't afford another close encounter. He began to question whether the hills were truly safe. Tigo, sensing Rocky's unease, nuzzled him gently, as if to say, "We'll face it together." Rocky looked at the cub. No, the tiger he had raised, and realized that their story was far from over. Their journey had only just begun. The secluded part of the hills provided temporary safety for Rocky and Tigo, but the encounter with humans had shaken them. Rocky began to notice the telltale signs of human activity encroaching on the hills: discarded trash, faint smoke trails, and the distant sounds of machinery. He realized their sanctuary was no longer untouched. As the days passed, Tigo's curiosity about the world grew. He ventured farther during hunts, his sleek body moving with confidence through the underbrush. Rocky, ever watchful, followed closely, ensuring the young tiger didn't stray too far. One morning, Tigo's roar echoed through the hills, not in triumph but in distress. Rocky raced to find him and discovered a steel trap biting into the tiger's leg. The sight of Tigo's pain ignited a fierce protectiveness in Rocky. He growled and tugged at the trap, his teeth scraping against the metal. Hours passed, and Rocky's efforts finally bore fruit. The trap snapped open, freeing Tigo. Though his leg was injured, Tigo's spirit remained unbroken. The incident, however, was a stark reminder of the growing danger they faced. Rocky knew they couldn't stay in the hills forever. Rocky decided it was time to leave the hills and seek a new haven, one far from the reach of humans. But this journey was unlike the last. Tigo was no longer a fragile cub but a powerful young tiger, his presence drawing attention wherever they went. As they descended from the hills, the landscape changed. Rolling plains stretched out before them, dotted with rivers and patches of dense forest. While the plains offered new opportunities, they also presented new dangers. Prey was abundant, but so were predators. One night, while resting near a shallow stream, a pack of hyenas emerged from the shadows. They surrounded Rocky and Tigo, their laughter echoing ominously. Tigo's growl was deep and menacing, a testament to his growing strength. The hyenas hesitated, but their hunger pushed them forward. Rocky and Tigo fought side by side. Rocky's agility and Tigo's raw power proved an unstoppable combination. The hyenas, battered and defeated, retreated into the night. As they licked their wounds, Rocky couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in Tigo. They were no longer just surviving, they were thriving together. As they ventured deeper into the plains, they stumbled upon a small, isolated village. The sight of humans immediately put Rocky on edge, but Tigo's curiosity got the better of him. The young tiger's golden eyes watched the villagers from a distance, his tail flicking with interest. One evening, a child wandered too far from the village, chasing after a stray ball. Tigo, hidden in the tall grass, observed silently. Suddenly, a venomous snake slithered toward the child, its fangs bared. Without hesitation, Tigo sprang into action, his roar startling the child and snake alike. With a swift paw, he struck the snake, sending it fleeing. The child, though frightened, was unharmed. When the villagers arrived, they were met with the sight of Tigo standing protectively by the child. Rocky emerged from the shadows, his posture calm yet cautious. The villagers, though wary, recognized the animal's intentions. For the first time, Rocky and Tigo were not seen as threats but as protectors. The villagers began leaving scraps of food at the edge of their settlement, a gesture of gratitude and peace. Time passed, and Tigo grew into a magnificent tiger. His once playful roars now echoed with authority, and his frame exuded strength. However, with his growth came the inevitable pull of his instincts. Tigo began spending more time away from Rocky, exploring the plains and marking his territory. Rocky watched with a mix of pride and sadness. He had raised Tigo to be strong and independent, but he couldn't ignore the growing distance between them. Tigo's nature as a tiger clashed with the bond they shared. One day, Tigo returned with the scent of another tiger on him. Rocky realized there were others of Tigo's kind nearby. It was only a matter of time before Tigo would seek them out, leaving Rocky behind. The thought filled Rocky with a profound sense of loss, but he knew he couldn't hold Tigo back. One fateful evening, the tranquility of the plains was shattered by the sound of gunshots. Hunters had arrived, their sights set on the elusive tiger that had been spotted near the village. Rocky and Tigo were on high alert. The hunters' presence was relentless, their traps and weapons threatening everything Rocky had worked to protect. As night fell, the hunters closed in on their location. Rocky made a decision. He would lead the hunters away, giving Tigo a chance to escape. With a bark that echoed through the plains, Rocky darted out of their hiding spot, drawing the hunters' attention. Tigo hesitated, his instincts telling him to fight, but Rocky growled, commanding him to leave. Reluctantly, Tigo disappeared into the shadows, his golden eyes filled with anguish. Rocky ran tirelessly, his old legs carrying him farther than he thought possible. The hunters pursued him, their shouts growing fainter as he led them deeper into the wilderness. Exhausted and cornered, Rocky finally stopped. The hunters closed in, their weapons raised. But as they approached, a thunderous roar shook the air. Tigo had returned, his powerful form charging toward the hunters. In the chaos that followed, the hunters fled, overwhelmed by the sheer force of Tigo's attack. Rocky, though injured, watched as his adopted son defended him with the ferocity of a true tiger. When the danger had passed, Tigo nuzzled Rocky gently, his eyes filled with gratitude and love. Though their journey was far from over, Rocky knew that their bond had withstood every trial. Together, they had faced the impossible and emerged stronger. For now, they had each other, and that was enough. As Rocky's wounds healed, he and Tigo found themselves in a new part of the plains, far from the hunter's reach. The land here was lush, with tall grasses and meandering streams. It seemed like the perfect place to start anew. But Rocky couldn't shake the feeling that their bond was being tested once again. Tigo was spending more time away, venturing deeper into the wild to explore his growing independence. One day, Tigo didn't return by nightfall. Rocky's heart raced with worry as he waited under a starlit sky. The hours stretched on until the first rays of dawn lit the horizon. Just as Rocky was about to search for him, Tigo emerged, his fur stained with blood. But it wasn't his. He had been in a fight with another tiger, defending his newly claimed territory. Rocky realized the inevitable. Tigo was growing into his role as a predator, a king of his domain. Yet, despite his growing dominance, Tigo never forgot Rocky's teachings. He licked the dog's face affectionately, as if to reassure him that their bond remained intact. As the days passed, Tigo's loyalty was put to the ultimate test. A rogue tiger, larger and more aggressive, invaded their territory. Tigo fought valiantly but was overwhelmed. Rocky, despite his old age, leaped into the fray, biting and distracting the rogue until Tigo could regain his footing. Together, they drove the intruder away. This victory solidified their bond once more, proving that strength came not from size but from unity. While exploring their new home, Rocky and Tigo stumbled upon an ancient cave adorned with faded carvings. The drawings depicted animals living in harmony, under the guidance of a wise elder. Intrigued, Tigo studied the carvings while Rocky rested. The images seemed to ignite a spark of curiosity in Tigo. Was there more to his life than dominance and survival? The duo's discovery of the cave coincided with the arrival of an elder wolf, a sage who had seen countless seasons. The wolf, drawn to the cave's history, shared tales of animals who thrived through cooperation. He told Tigo that true strength lay in wisdom and compassion, not just power. Tigo listened intently, his golden eyes filled with thought. Rocky watched proudly, seeing the tiger he had raised embrace a higher purpose. The elder's stories resonated deeply with Tigo, who began to take a more measured approach to his role in the wild. He hunted only what was necessary and defended his territory without unnecessary aggression. For Rocky, the transformation in Tigo was bittersweet. He knew his time with the tiger was finite, but he took solace in knowing he had raised a creature who would not just survive but thrive as a protector of his world. The peace Rocky and Tigo had found was shattered one fateful morning. The distant rumble of engines echoed through the plains as humans returned, this time with bulldozers and trucks. They were expanding their reach, clearing land for development. Rocky's instincts kicked in. He knew the humans' intentions would disrupt the delicate balance of the plains. Tigo, too, sensed the danger. His roars echoed across the land, a warning to all who could hear. Animals fled, but Rocky and Tigo stayed to protect their home. As the machines drew closer, Tigo devised a plan. He led Rocky and a group of animals to create a blockade using fallen trees and boulders. The humans, faced with resistance, halted their work temporarily, but their resolve didn't waver. They returned with tranquilizers and traps, determined to clear the land. Rocky and Tigo worked tirelessly, dismantling traps and warning other animals. Despite their efforts, the humans' persistence was relentless. One night, a trap meant for Tigo caught Rocky instead. Tigo's anguished roar shook the plains as he freed his father figure, but the injury left Rocky weakened. Still, he refused to back down. The conflict escalated as the humans' machines pushed deeper into the plains. Tigo, now fully embracing his role as a leader, rallied the animals of the plains. Deer, elephants, birds, and even smaller creatures like rabbits joined the cause. Under Tigo's guidance, they sabotaged the humans' equipment and blocked their paths. Rocky, though frail, played a crucial role in coordinating the animals. His years of experience and sharp instincts proved invaluable. Together, they created a united front that the humans couldn't ignore. The standoff reached its peak when Tigo confronted the humans directly. His massive frame and thunderous roar sent a clear message. This land was not theirs to take. The humans, realizing the futility of their efforts, began to retreat. But not before one last act of defiance. A hunter aimed his rifle at Tigo. Rocky, despite his injuries, leaped in front of Tigo, taking the tranquilizer dart meant for the tiger. As Rocky's body grew heavy, Tigo roared with a ferocity that shook the heavens. The humans, overwhelmed by the sheer force of nature, fled, leaving the plains in peace. Rocky's sacrifice marked the end of the humans' encroachment, but it also marked the end of an era. Tigo stayed by Rocky's side, nuzzling him gently as his mentor's strength faded. Rocky looked into Tigo's eyes one last time, his heart filled with pride. He had raised a cub into a king. With Rocky's passing, Tigo took his place as the guardian of the plains. His roars echoed through the land, a reminder of the bond that had shaped him. The animals, inspired by Tigo and Rocky's story, worked together to rebuild their home, creating a sanctuary for all. Tigo often visited the cave where the carvings of harmony and wisdom remained. There, he would reflect on the lessons Rocky had taught him and the sacrifices that had been made. Though the pain of loss lingered, it was tempered by the knowledge that their story would live on, passed down through the whispers of the wild. If you've been touched by the incredible journey of Rocky and Tigo, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming and inspiring stories. What would you have done if you were in Rocky's place? How do you think we can protect wildlife and maintain harmony with nature? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to hear your ideas.